Still, there are ways of having real animal-based sex without the pounding.
Hi, and welcome back to the Smart Couple Podcast. It's great to be here with you right now in this crazy time that we live in. There's a lot happening. And do you ever just close your eyes and feel what's going on in your body, given everything that's going on outside your body in the world? It's a good micro meditation to just stop, take a couple breaths, and feel, it could be fear, anxiety, it could be tension in your throat, tingling in your belly. Either way, I think it's important to stay connected to yourself right now, given whatever you're going through. All right, here at the Smart Couple, we work to educate you on what real partnership looks like and feels like. And we also interview lots of experts, some couples, my wife. I talk a lot and try to share just rules of engagement and things that we have learned along the way to assist you in the partnership dance. This podcast is for you if you're into growth and development and you want to have a fulfilling long-term relationship, such as marriage, over many, many years. Okay, that's the game we play here. And because you didn't get educated on this in school, this is an education. And in a way, this is part of the relationship school that I founded last year. The podcast is in service of a much bigger mission, which is to educate the planet around intimate relationships, because no one got this in school. You didn't get it, I didn't get it, and so I'm on a mission to give that. Eventually, we'll reach lots and lots of people, young and old, and teach conflict to kids, and we'll do all kinds of fun stuff. So stay tuned for more of that, and if you want to be involved, then please keep listening, because lots and lots coming up, given that we're going to be enrolling the relationship school in the late spring. All right. This month is Valentine's Day month. If you're into the Hallmark holidays, Hallmark being the greeting card and the marketing plan to just create a bunch of hype, really, to go buy flowers and chocolates for your lover or partner. And I'm not necessarily a Scrooge of Valentine's Day. I just wonder, why aren't we doing Valentine's Day every day? Isn't every day about love? And how can we make it about love? That's what I stand for in life, and that's what I'm here to teach and learn about, is love. So you're not going to hear a whole lot of Valentine's Day stuff from me, but I might play a little bit in that game. We'll see. Stay tuned, okay? It's coming up soon. But just giving you a heads up, either way, I'm going to keep you guessing. Now, in this episode, we have an unusual guest and an unusual topic, but a very, very healing and important conversation around the female cervix. And prior to talking to Olivia here, I didn't really have a clue about the cervix in relationship to sexuality. Partly because I'm not a woman, and partly because I'm just uneducated, which is why I bring guests on around sexuality to educate me in areas of the sexual realm that I don't know about. So as you've noticed, we have lots of guests on sexuality, people that live and breathe, their world is in the sexual domain, and it's part of what they're here to teach. And if you've noticed a common theme, not only are the sexual hosts here, the hosts of sexuality in this podcast, about having good sex or having a good time during sex, they're also about healing through sex, because so many of us have been hurt around our sexuality. So that's why this conversation matters to me is, well, I've been hurt sexually, and I wrote a great blog post about it. If you haven't read it, it's what happens when we don't teach our boys about sex. And I wrote this years ago for the Good Men Project, and it went a little bit viral. And it was a confrontingly good blog post. I'll include it in the show notes if you haven't read that one. Because, man, what happens when we don't teach anyone about sex is people just figure it out and flail their way through it. And usually people get hurt in that process. So Olivia Bryant is on a mission to teach men and women and couples about the cervix and the healing power of feeling connected to your partner and going into the body, into the vagina, into the cervix, and having a transformational experience so that you can enjoy pleasure and enjoy sex in a different way. So I think you're going to find this conversation quite fascinating and helpful, especially if you're a woman. And also if you're a man and you're having challenges sexually with your woman, this might be of assistance to you, because who knows what in the hell is going on. But challenges are always opportunities here at the Smart Couple, okay? All right, so let me just say a few words about Olivia. Olivia Bryant's the founder of Cervix, where women from around the world are finding personal power and self-love through awakening the energy of the cervix. Trained in sexology and conscious loving, Olivia has been exploring sexuality professionally for 10 years and began combining it with her art practice 15 years ago. She's passionate about helping people heal from individual and collective wounding around sex and relationship and sees the power of community as a context in which to do all of this. She believes that sexual healing is the missing piece in the journey towards awakening. Olivia is trained in Eastern traditions and loves to combine ancient wisdom with the ritual with science-based practical information. Okay, again, I think this is a good one. I know this is going to serve you, especially if you have any wounding in your body around sexuality. This is unique and helpful info here. All right, let's get right into it. I'll let Olivia do most of the talking, and we will connect at the end, as always, for some kind of action step and other little bits of info. Welcome to the show, Olivia Bryant.
Thank you so much for having me on the show, Jayson. I've been following your work for a while now, so it's a real honor to be able to contribute to your podcasts.
Excellent. Yeah, and today we're going to talk about the female cervix as it pertains to a woman opening up and going deeper inside of herself through sexuality. Is that right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's my version, but what would you say we're talking about today?
Today we're talking about feeling more and the capacity that we have as women to feel more, but also the capacity we have to armor and shut down and not feel what we're capable of as sexual beings.
Yeah, great. Okay, juicy conversation. So how did you get into this work, and what makes what you're talking about and what we're going to talk about today unique?
Yeah. Okay. So the story of getting into it, it's a pretty cool one. So I had a really traumatic breakup with a guy that I was fully in love with, and during the period and the process of breaking up, I just noticed that I was starting to shut down on my pelvis. I was starting to get a lot of pelvic pain. I had no libido. I couldn't reach orgasm. I didn't want to have sex. And I work as a sexologist. And so I was watching this and starting to feel extremely inadequate as a woman in my profession, not knowing quite how to navigate it or talk about it. And so I actually just gave it all up and said, I don't want to do this anymore. But still, I was curious about this pain that I was feeling in my pelvis. Like literally my body was shutting down and saying no to being entered. And so I went and had a bodywork session with a guy in Bali, Matt Schwentek. And during that session, I asked him for what is called a de-armoring session, which is literally what it sounds like. So you're exploring the armoring in the pelvis, the armoring that is essentially the emotional, the result of our defense mechanisms in the body as represented in the body. So it's our defense mechanism and how it holds in places in the body. And for a woman in her vagina, this is a particularly a big place of armoring. So we went in there, asked him for a de-armoring session, and I realized, wow, I had pain in my pelvis. It was crazy. And then we got to the cervix, and the cervix was completely and utterly numb. Like literally, he said, "Do you feel that?" And I was like, "No, what?" And he said, "Oh, I'm on your cervix." And I was like, "I do not feel a thing." And because of the line of work I do, I know that the cervix is actually highly innervated. It has 3 massive nerves coming into it, and the surface is innervated as well. And it is a trigger point to one of the most profound orgasms that you can have, where you have an experience of the boundaries of your body disappearing and all of that sort of stuff. So it's transcendent orgasmic state. And so I was like, oh no, that's a bummer. So I was like, what am I going to do? And so the prescription was to go away and stimulate cervix for 21 days without clitoral orgasm, in order to start to feel deeper places inside of the body. And so I did that, and I found it very, very hard to do on my own. And I set up a support group of people who wanted to stimulate their cervixes with me. And that turned into a global project. We now have 2,000 women worldwide, ranging from Pakistan to South Sudan, like crazy places around the world. And what we've discovered is that women can wake up the nerves, more nerves in the vagina and the cervix, and begin to feel more and more pleasure. And not only that, self-esteem, self-worth, a sense of sovereignty, ownership. And we're really learning about how we have developed armoring, not just ourselves, but also how we inherit armoring from our mothers, our grandmothers. We carry through these sexual patterns that prevent us from really being able to relax and release and feel our lovers and ourselves. So it's kind of this profound work. And what I really discovered was that no one was talking about the cervix in the mainstream. So the cervix is often talked about in the world of Tantra, because the cervix orgasm is that sort of more spiritual, transcendent kind of orgasm. But no one has really addressed it except for a scientist named Barry Komisaruk, who really proved through stimulating the cervix of people with spinal cord injuries that they could still have orgasms because of the vagus nerve.
Wow.
Goes right from the cervix through to the pineal gland in the brain. So, which was a massive breakthrough. And yet, many of us have never experienced that kind of orgasm. And so we just started asking the question, why? And I think, and this is still yet to be proven because we have not enough research. There are researchers now jumping onto this work. I think that it's because we have this armoring, whether it is from the brain, where we literally disassociate and we check out because of shame, embodied shame, or pain. Like there's a lot of women out there who can probably know the experience of having the cervix pounded during sex and kind of bracing.
Right, because that's what porn, that's the kind of imagery about porn, right? Is some dude is pounding some woman, right?
Yeah.
And that could be numbing for some women, right? It's not necessarily it doesn't feel good. That's like just some BS narrow slice of sexuality. I mean, that might be fine for some people, but you're saying pounding the cervix isn't necessarily going to help it.
Well, what I'm saying is that, the porn model of, fast friction-based sex, where it's like in out, and it's a procreative model moving towards the ejaculation and the orgasm, basically. Yeah. It's not necessarily helpful for a woman's ability to feel and heal. So the friction, in out can cause, a woman to feel dry, or it can really it desensitizes the skin. And also the cervix, if you're pounding into it, yeah, it's like any muscle in your body. Say you go hit someone in the stomach, they have to brace. They have to. So if you're entering a woman and she's not fully 100% ready, and I don't just mean she's lubricated, like a ready woman is a woman who is emotionally able to receive and actually have something inside of her body, which is, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
And it's not really talked about like that. It's like, yeah, we're just fucking, but actually, do you know that you're actually bringing another being, another energy into your body? And so are you ready for that, really? And there's a lot of pressure on women. We feel like, oh God, I'm not ready fast enough. I'm not ready as fast as him. I have to please him. I have to perform and be like this, ultimately open, ready, insatiable woman. And it's just not true.
Yeah. That's not true in my experience.
It's not
with a real woman in a real marriage, in a real relationship, that's often just not the case.
Yeah. And so the beauty in this is that the woman, through this practice of healing her cervix, gets to realize, wow, look what state my cervix is in. How did this happen? And because of the work that it takes to bring back sensation, then she's like, oh, hey, this needs to be a conversation that we have. Like, I love you. I want to receive you into my body. But I really need to feel ready on a psychological, emotional, and a physical level first. And when a woman is fully ready, her cervix will raise and will lift up in her body. But still, there are ways of having real animal-based sex without the pounding.
Sure.
You can touch onto the cervix with your cock or with your finger or whatever, and you can have. I don't know, you can't really do this on a podcast, but, I don't quite know how to explain this, but I'm doing this with my hands. It's like you can push in the cervix without pulling away and pushing, like, you can kind of, and then she can move her body on you. There are ways that you can express the kind of the raw passion without having to, fully hammer the cervix.
This is interesting because to me it really comes down to can we both be present and make contact physically, right, emotionally, spiritually together, and stay with that no matter what the sensation looks like or where it's going, and can we actually maintain that kind of contact and that energy? Because I think the image you were doing, it's like a pulling away then pushing in, a pulling away then pushing in, which again could work for some people at some levels of development. And what I hear you saying just sounds like a real, you use the word healing, but also extremely pleasurable, right? Hey there, I'm going to make a quick interruption here to remind you to have these kind of vulnerable, open conversations around your sexuality. And if you want a home and a place to do that, because it's not in your life, go to jasongaddis.com/roots to join a group of people who are having these kind of open conversations and who will ask me intimate, very personal, private questions and get my direct feedback every couple of weeks. jasongaddis.com/roots. Okay, back to Olivia Bryant and the cervix.
Yeah. Well, listen, I want to say also there's no wrong or right way. I don't want to judge what anybody's doing, right? It's like, but I'm just offering another way, another way of thinking about this. So for example, something that we've discovered and I've discovered, so I've done quite a lot of experimenting, is the sensitivity that both men and women can get from de-armoring their genitals. So men can do it as well on the penis and right around the back, around the perineum, not to mention the prostate. But so when when everyone is de-armored, and I'll talk for a woman from my experience, the level of sensitivity increases so much that you don't need to do so much when you're making love, right? And you can just hold to, like the penis becomes so alive and sensitive and has so much energy in it. And so does the vagina become so soft and receptive because there's no armoring.
Right.
that they can feel each other. And there's
Mm-hmm.
a pulsing that happens. There's like a pulsing that occurs. So for me, I can feel like vaginally, I'm just pulsing, and I can feel him just, also just energy from him. And we could just hold there, like seeing each other and just being with that and breathing. And it's so beautiful, and it's orgasmic. It is a state of orgasm rather than reaching towards a goal, which is what the kind of like, here we go, we're building, sort of.
Okay, so walk us through the difference between what you're talking about, where we're pulsing and we're so present and connected like that, and like a vaginal orgasm versus that. Are we talking about the same thing here, or is this different?
Well, I really hate to label things because I think that we get so in our heads,
wound up about it. Yeah.
Orgasm, was that kind of orgasm? And we sort of start to compare, and language is so inadequate at explaining an experience because we're differently, right? So some woman or man might say, oh yeah, I had like stars coming out of my eyes and blah, blah, blah. And I'll be like, I haven't had that, but maybe I have. So that aside, just saying, I don't really go for the labels. I'm just like, okay, this is an experience. What I'm talking about that's different is, one is you're heading towards an event, something that is a happening, and then there's a build up and a release of energy, especially with the clitoral orgasm. But you can also have like, I suppose you can have an event with a vaginal orgasm, but the difference is with internal pleasure, you can keep on going. You can keep on going and you don't have to stop.
Is this is this why people talk about women having multiple orgasms, being able to do that?
Yeah. Well, there's multiple orgasms where you could say, for example, have a clitoral orgasm and then just pull your hand away, wait for 5 minutes, and then potentially have another clitoral orgasm. But then there's this thing that we're calling the orgasmic state, which is you hold yourself in a state of being, which is riding the pleasure. So you are not heading towards any goal in particular. Say you're just on this wave that might go up and it might go down. It might go up a bit higher and it might go down. It might go up and so you're just literally being with what is. And for me, the vaginal orgasm occurs in that space of the state. It's not something that I can only speak for myself. I cannot speak for other women here. It is not something that I can ever push for. I just have to be completely okay with, like, I'm just with pleasure as the focus and connection as the focus. And then what occurs in that orgasmic state, I receive that as well. And sometimes it can be for me what I experience as a kind of an expansion that is triggered from an internal place inside of my body. Vagina,
okay, you are saying, though, I'm not going to push for anything really, but you are pushing, I heard, for pleasure and connection. That's what you are pushing for, or you have a desire for pleasure and connection.
That is what we want. Yeah. Ultimately, that is what we want. And I think that we get a bit mixed up when we start placing so much emphasis on getting to the orgasm or having the orgasm, because we miss so much beauty that can occur within those spaces. And the thing is, the porn industry has created a paradigm in which our lovers get their self-esteem from whether they can, quote unquote, give us an orgasm. And I always say to my lovers now, I say to them, listen, my orgasm is not your responsibility. That is my responsibility. And it's really, see, my nervous system might not be in the right space to slide into orgasm. And that's not my partner's job.
Okay, how about if can the goal be okay to have a goal of like healing? What if we just want to heal our sexuality together and denumb our bodies together?
Yeah, that's a goal. And that will come from being present.
Yeah. Yeah, and going slow enough to feel the sensation, right, and be present with it.
Yeah, and what does that look like anyway? Because you can never stop healing.
Yeah, right. 2 more orgasms and I'm healed.
I know. Like, I know.
But hold on, but wait, a woman can, because you talk about the armoring, right? Like a lot of women, in my understanding from talking to a lot of people over the years, is that it could be said that generally speaking, women give up their bodies earlier than they want to when they're young, and either without choice or with choice, And that becomes now a pattern. And there's a certain level of armoring as well as self-betrayal that has to go on to try to open their bodies, right? And now I'm guessing over time, we're talking about a cervix that has become numb, or that because it hasn't been honored, right? And there is like continually self-protection, self-preservation going on. Is that fair to say, that kind of
defense mechanism of the body? It's either numb or it's pain. And to be not just lovemaking, it could be going to the doctor and having a medical procedure,
absolutely,
or a pap smear, which no one loves a pap smear. We're all just like, bracing against it. So it's not just
or birth, pregnancy.
That's right. There's a lot of stuff that occurs for the cervix that can cause a disassociation or a numbness or a defense.
Okay, so if a woman finds herself nodding her head as she's listening right now, like, oh my God, that's my body. What are some baby steps that she can begin to take to move in the direction you're talking about here?
Great. I'll share the process. So I would, what I teach women is, first of all, before you even enter your body, just start exploring your external body first, especially the breasts, because that's how you open the vagina. And then notice around the outside of the vagina, have you got numbness around the anus, around the genitals? Have you got pain, tension? And just be with those spots first.
And you say be with, you talk just like be present with. Not trying to fix it, not trying to like make it go away, just being with it.
Yeah, both. So you can be with it and put your hand on it and just feel what comes up, because sometimes it can be instantly emotional. Or you can do a trigger point. So you can push into it and hold your finger there. Just hold your finger there, breathe, and relax your nervous system until the sensation begins to shift. And you do that inside the vagina as well. So the entrance for many women is particularly tight, tense, or it has an acid quality. An armoring can also feel like an acidy feeling. A lot of women have that around the G spot. So pressing and holding those places. And so they press, hold, breathe, and actively push out like they're having a baby into the finger or penis. So you can do it with a partner. And then you work your way up the vagina around the clock, finding areas of pain, tension, numbness, pressing, holding, pushing out into the finger or cock, and right up to the cervix, doing exactly the same with patience and love. So what I want to stress here is that we're not going to cross the pain threshold and create more trauma or numbness. We're just going to that place where we can breathe, hold, and send love into that space, and like allow the tension to release.
And there may be tears, there may be an anger flash, there may be joy, laughter, right? Whatever.
Oh yeah, and there could be nausea. There's could be a lot. And I think with doing this with a partner can be fairly intense for a partner if they're doing this work and their lover suddenly bursts into tears, or has a growl because all of this rage is coming up, or they have a flash and a memory. And I think that there has to be an amount of responsibility from the woman receiving, that she doesn't project onto her lover. And that the lover can be with himself and not take it on as being his fault.
So this requires a certain level of emotional maturity to be able to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. I've made a whole course which Jayson in helping lovers navigate this space, because first of all, lovers learn how to touch.
Okay. Yeah. And this speaks to the whole podcast, right? Is you're listening to this podcast to get tools before you enter the bedroom, in a way, so that when you're ready for something like Olivia's talking about here, where if you're going to take shit personally and get super triggered and go back and forth and whose fault it is, it's going to be hard to heal here. So we got to slow it down, get some tools to be able to actually listen, show up, be present. Honey, I hear you. Wow, I want to take this personal, but I'm not right now. I'm going to stay present here. Stuff like that.
You know what? What I love about the cervix, it bloody makes us all grow up as lovers and look at how we're still carrying forward our old wounds around rejection and abandonment, and how we put that on our lovers. And it really makes us, we got to be it's got to be safe for us to have emotional experiences, right?
Yeah.
And it's got to be so that we know that our love is not going to take it on, and we have to look after them, right? And it's also, we've got to look at how we get our self-worth from being able to pleasure our lovers. And if we don't pleasure them, or if we don't touch them right, that we don't run away like sulking, or feel emasculated, or feel like we're inadequate somehow because we haven't managed to give the perfect touch. It's like we got to take responsibility for receiving what we want, and we've got to be able to hear it.
That's
without
right.
that we know someone else's body better than they know it. Even if you've been with your partner for 20 years, like there's always stuff that you can learn.
Oh yeah.
If that
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. And for the men out there, just man to man here, this is such a big opportunity for us to grow up. Because one of our big wounds as men is, am I getting it right? Am I doing it right? And because I'm not doing it right, because I'm interpreting you're not satisfied, I'm going to like collapse, go into shame, get angry at you, withdraw, retreat, a number of things, feel entitled to more, different, better, another woman. Anyway, we have a whole rabbit hole game we play there. So I just want to challenge the male listener to really look at yourself here. And I just love the invitation to see your sex life as a healing opportunity for yourself. Okay, we're specifically focused on the cervix right now, and the vagina, and women and their orgasm. And we'll do, at some point we'll get into some episodes about the male and the prostate and whatever else we want to experience. But we have work to do here as guys, I think, generally, to show up for our partner here and not take it personally.
Totally, because I want to say, like, we as women, that's our biggest fear, is that, for example, one of the challenges with the lovers program that I made was women so afraid of saying, hey, hun, can we do this? Because they don't want their partner to think that they are doing it wrong or inadequate,
Mm-hmm.
And that's the last thing we want to feel. Perhaps we know that there's more, and we need to feel, we got to go deeper. And to go deeper, we have to be willing to let a lot of stuff go and allow our lovers to ask for what they want and put aside our egos, both of us, all of us.
Sure. And at the same time, honoring ourselves and our pace, right?
Yeah.
Right? So it's not about like, I got to put aside my defenses and just open up to you, like you were saying earlier.
No.
I don't want to do that. I want to be true to who I am and stay in connection and see if we can negotiate a way forward together.
Well, look, this is a much bigger conversation, but essentially one thing that I teach, we have to break down touch like into pure service, stepping into pure service. What is that? When you're really going to touch someone, and step into pure service, what you think is right for them, you just have to put that aside and really step into service, which is, I'm here at your service to touch you in a way that you ask for and nothing else. And so that puts the receiver in charge and responsible.
Mm-hmm. To say, hey, this works for me, this doesn't work for me, slow down, speed up.
Well, to say more like, I want you to touch my breasts like this. And then the lover would be like, okay. And then like this? Yeah, like that. A little slower, please.
Yeah.
And it just becomes an exploration and an exploration.
But also training, like we want to educate our partner in what works for us, I'm hearing.
Especially when it comes to the cervix and exploring the internal world of a woman.
Mm-hmm.
And for women here, like, we got to be responsible, and that's why self-cervix is so important, because the work is requiring us to really feel our areas of pleasure, pain, and numbness, so that we can then precisely say, can you go to 3 o'clock, halfway in, press here, hold, that's great, amazing. Or I'm about to cry, it's all good. cry, and then great, could you move to, or shame is coming up for me, I just need to be with shame for it.
Yeah.
It's very, very hard for a woman to say, I'm ready for you to enter me. Mm-hmm. Can you enter me now? Like, geez, so much
sure.
inside of me now. And the hot and horny way, but what if you're like, you know, in a more precious space to say, okay, I'm ready for you to enter. I want you to enter my pussy, vagina, whatever she calls it.
Sure.
You know?
I mean, a lot of couples have a hard time here, I think, because they don't want to communicate because this is so vulnerable. Like, hey, can you touch my cock here? Can you touch my breast there? There's like this because they never did sexuality that way, right? We just date and then we start fucking and having sex and then maybe we get married, but we still haven't talked about what actually works for us and what doesn't. And decades go by.
Yeah.
Now we're in patterns.
Oh yeah. And then it's kind of embarrassing and awkward. So in Lovers, we break it right down to look at the dynamic of touch. Like, who is the touch for? Is it for me or is it for you? And it's possible, you know, in lovemaking, possible that you can take pleasure for yourself from your lover's body, you know, and there's that's actually what we're doing with lovemaking. If we stop pleasing each other and we start taking with our genitals and feeling what is so great for us while we're making love, pleasuring ourselves through our lover's body, it's that is
okay. Wait. So we got to rewind here or unpack this a little bit because I hear you saying two potentially contradictory things, which is it's all about service. But now you're saying we got to take for ourselves, which is what Betty Dodson essentially said when I interviewed her a while back around the female orgasm was, hey man, just, you know, at the end of the day, just pleasure yourself. Which is one way to do sexuality. That's fine. But can you explain so we're not too confused here between service and self-pleasure?
Yeah. So, for example, if you were going to do if your lover said, hey, I really want to explore cervical de-armoring, well, that would require a dynamic where your lover was going to step into service of what exactly it is that you need and give you full permission to ask for exactly what you want. Yeah?
Yeah.
They are there just to serve your desires.
I'm here for you, honey. What do you need? Yep. Let's do it.
I'm assisting you to pleasure yourself, essentially.
Yeah. Where do you want my finger? Where do you want my hand, my cock? Where do you want me? How slow, how fast? Yeah.
Without taking it personally, if she needs as many adjustments, you know, my lover might say, and you can ask for as many adjustments as you need, you know?
Yeah.
And then the other dynamic would be where you explore and this is what comes with consent, really taking from your lover pleasure for yourself from your lover's body. And so if we were to break that down, we would work with consent. But obviously over time, it's just we just decide as lovers that, yes, I love your body so much. I give you permission to take from my body as much pleasure as you want. And if there's something that you do that I'm not comfortable with, I'm happy to put up a boundary. And when you're lovemaking, the beautiful dynamic is you take from each other. And you just
give and take, right? In and out.
One person is allowing, one person is taking. One person is allowing, one person is taking.
Okay.
Moving in this flow state where you're not pleasing and going, oh my God, do they like this? Am I moving in the right way? Are they, you know, it's more like, this feels good. And I trust my partner to put up a boundary if it's not feeling good, but I can assume if it's feeling good for me, it's feeling good for them too. Because you're really, really, really taking pleasure through every cell of your being.
Yeah.
Like
and you're
really
right. And when we're really in our bodies and we're really in our hearts, it's pretty hard to go wrong, right? When we're feeling connected.
Like you just contrast that with porn style, where I don't think are they really feeling every stroke? Yeah.
You know? Well, and are they in their heart, you know? Wow, this is wonderful. Okay, so introductory steps for a woman, where can she find out if she's like kind of intrigued right now? Where does she find out more about this and you?
So she can go to selfcervix.com, and the next journey will be running in March, and we run it 4 or 5 times a year, and we have a global group, a community that she can be part of and get support that she needs.
Cool. So, and I can include a link to that in the show notes. Yeah, great. All right. Any final parting words, Olivia, to the women or couples out there that might be struggling or numb or curious here?
Yeah, I would just say, in fact, curious is the word to begin any kind of exploration for, because Yes, you might have numbness, you might have pain, you might have amazing pleasure. And the thing is, just stay curious about what's possible. So I think the only thing that we didn't sort of cover was, if you are going to go about, for example, a journey, we just say, hey, for a while, just give up your clitoral orgasm, so that you can start to tune into more subtle things that are occurring inside of the body. And for many women, that can feel like taking away their toys and taking away their pleasure, because that's their main way of pleasuring themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And their inner world can feel numb and frankly boring for a while, until they start increasing the sensation through the de-armoring process. So have patience, stay curious, and just know that when you when you take away, say your clitoral orgasm for a bit, you will find deeper and many more possibilities of exploring your pleasure potential as a woman. So have faith. Your body's amazing.
So trustworthy, right?
Yeah.
Cool. Beautiful. Thanks, Olivia, for hanging out with us and sharing such wisdom here. And I feel excited because this seems like very forward-thinking sexuality here we're talking about.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on, Jayson, and giving this material a chance out there, because it is important. So thanks.
Awesome. Okay, we'll talk soon. All right, guys, if you want to follow up with Olivia, she has a course called The 21 Days of Pleasure and Awakening. It's this self-cervix course, and it sounds incredibly powerful and healing. So I recommend you go check that out. I'm going to include that link in the show notes. I don't know what that link is off the top of my head in this moment. So we're going to get you directed to the right spot. All right. She also has a Being the Lover course that I've been a guest teacher on for couples to explore, intimacy together through this work in the cervix. And she's described it to me on a separate call, and it sounded really, really powerful. So many insecurities, again, can come up for both men and women here. And, for us guys that want to get it right or get off or whatever our thing is, so much of the sexual transformation that I continue to hear about on this podcast through guest interviews is that we need to rewire how we do sexuality and continue to find our way into just being ourselves and fumbling our way through it in the most vulnerable, authentic way we can. And while we're connected to our bodies and our hearts. And there's just tremendous, tremendous healing in the sex world, in the sex landscape for us. So I invite you to look at your own sex life. All right, that's your action step, is where's the pain and where's the healing? It's probably in the same spot, right? Whether it's physical pain, emotional pain, spiritual pain, relationship pain around your sex life, where is that? And that's the place to go toward the healing. And, I've interviewed lots and lots of people here on the podcast to give you some options to choose from in terms of who you resonate with. And I'll continue to explore interviewing folks around sexuality to help you find your way and find a practitioner that works for you. I know I occasionally get emails from people saying, hey, I heard about so-and-so, David Cates or Lila Martin or whoever, and I took their course or I started to work with them. So I'm really psyched that this podcast can serve as a resource for you to go find the sexual healing that you may need to have in your own life. All right. And then your other action step, of course, is to talk with your partner or lover or next lover or next partner about this, about sex in an intimate, raw kind of way. Like, hey, this is really vulnerable for me. I mean, most of us don't talk about it during the honeymoon period because it all feels so damn good, no matter kind of what we're doing. But I guarantee you, a year or two in, maybe 3 or 5, you're going to find some pain around your sex life. And that's designed to get you to wake up in that area. So go look at it, go investigate, go face it, all right? And talk openly with your partner about it. Hey, honey, I feel scared to say this, but I want to talk to you about our sex life. Hey, honey, I feel scared to share this, but when we have sex, I'm abandoning myself. I got into this habit when I was young and I'm still doing it. And I don't want to do that anymore. Are you up for rewiring our sex life? Okay, these kind of conversations, all right, have the challenging, potentially challenging conversation around sex. Now, if you're in blissed out mode, no problem, enjoy it. Maybe you can do some proactive work here because it's pleasurable for both of you. Maybe you can go explore more uncomfortable terrain. But for those of us that are in longer relationships where sexual challenges come up, go right toward the challenge and have the hard conversation. Okay. Again, go to the link in the show notes to follow up if you want with Olivia's work. And I remember her telling me that her work is informed by Betty Martin, who I've asked to be on the podcast. So hopefully Betty Martin will also be on the podcast soon, and we can hear directly from her. She's been a big influence, I know, for Olivia. Okay, and if you're a woman that wants to be on a little subset of my list around women's sexuality, you can go to jasongaddis.com/WS for women's sexuality and leave your email there. You'll get a free download from Christiane and Ren, who were on the podcast many moons ago, around a partner practice you can do. And you'll just be on this list so that if I have announcements for women around sexuality courses or maybe a new podcast or something, then you can be the first to know about it. Okay, jasongaddis.com/WS. All right, everybody. It's been fun. It's been intense. It's been real. And that's how relationships are. So go take that heat from your heart and loins and bring it to your relationship life. All right. Peace out.